This is going to be interesting. I say that with trepidation. I'm just checking some levels. Levels seem good on the audio. Let me know in the chat here on YouTube or on Periscope/Twitter if it doesn't look good. I am just going to double check on Twitter that we are live. So much checking. This is so much more stressful than the normal, do a post, off we go. Yeah, there we are. All right, so you can see the clock in the corner. You can't see me yet, but it looks like the levels are good. Let me see here on YouTube if things are rocking. Yeah, we're live on YouTube. We are live on Twitch. So let me hit you up with... there we go. Morning. All right. Like I said, way more stressful than the recorded videos, but I wanted to try something ironically not stressful. This is already not working. Here's what I wanted to do. This week, a service I really was looking forward to from AWS got launched. That's Amazon Textract, which is their OCR service. It's really, really interesting. And I wanted to do a video on it. And I thought, well, wait a minute. Instead of doing a video, why don't I do a stream? And the reason for that is that I kind of promised myself this year that I would be giving myself more time to tinker, to get hands-on. You see, I'm an AWS community hero, and I have a research job with a large security company, and I do a lot of big picture work. I do a lot of strategy work. I do a lot of policy work. I do a lot of public speaking and advocacy for security and privacy in general, but specifically in the AWS cloud. But I'm finding I get less and less time hands-on. I get less nerd time just to play around. So, I was over the moon last week or 2 weeks ago, when I took a couple hours and just kind of nerded out on Deep Racer and reinforcement learning for a while. And with Textract coming out, I wanted to play around with it. And I thought, what's really good is kind of walk you guys through how I evaluate a new service. So let me give you the baseline here. I think we've got everything set up streaming-wise. I'm looking at the levels. Things look good. It's just me, one camera, and my system. So I'm going to be giving you some screenshots and walking through some live code. You can see down in the corner. There we go. Down in the corner, I've got a timer. I have a meeting in a little while, and this is all the time I have to explore. And my goal is really, really simple. I don't have a script. I literally just have a couple notes. Let's see if autofocus will pick that up. Good old Panasonic cameras do not like the autofocus close. I only have literally 3 items here. Show a YouTube video, show the web UI, and jump into Python. This is unscripted. It's off the cuff. We'll see how many folks jump on, if anything. I am looking at the chat in YouTube. I'm looking at the chat on Twitter, though Twitter's probably not going to be nearly as effective as the Amazon chat. So hit me up there. Yikes, let me chill on that. So I do have some monitoring there, so please let me know what you're looking at. But I wanted to break it down as how I approach a new service, and hopefully that's useful for you guys. I just wanted to share because I was going to do this anyway. So let's get started by looking at what Textract is in general. To do that, we're going to pop into YouTube here for a second, and we're going to see the initial announcement. So this is just going to take a couple seconds here.
Our customers are frustrated that they can't get more of all of this text.
And that's not going to tell you, is it? All right. So, yikes. All right, first problem. I don't have it set up to stream the system audio. I didn't install that driver yet. So problem number 1, and we're, a minute and some into the broadcast. So let me give you this. Textract easily extract text and data from virtually any document. Pretty straightforward here. The key is you give it something. Normally you're going to be giving it an image, and it's going to be analyzing that using a machine learning model to try to figure out what that text actually says. So unlike Amazon Transcribe, where you give it an audio file and it gives you the text back from that, this is you hand it an image file and it will give you the text back from that image file. OCR has been around forever. It's only gotten better recently with machine learning, AI models applied to it, but it's also one of those things that you really don't use that often unless you use it all the time. time. So I don't use it all the time, but it fits in with these services that are really are starting to leverage more and more. So I use Amazon Comprehend all the time. I use Amazon Transcribe all the time. You can think Translate's there as well. They've got these natural language processing, and this one's really adjacent as far as getting to text. Because once you have the information in text, then you can start to leverage all the other stuff like Comprehend, which is fascinating for syntactical analysis and things like that. So the idea here is we're going to pass it image, and it's going to give us back the text. So the first thing I do is, I read through the marketing material. Normally what I would do is look at the announcement video. Now, I was at reInvent when they announced this, so no big deal there. But what I'm actually going to do is drop this in the chat. This is the AWS reInvent announcement. So you guys can see that link and watch it yourself later if you want. So normally what I do is get a high-level idea of what this service is about. That's probably someone from AWS telling me. That's a newsletter. That's a quick video like this 3-minute announcement. So step 1, figure out what this service is all about. Step 2 is dive in a little bit more to see the marketing material. This is the overview, is really written from the marketing perspective. But the features are really where it starts to show. So the first time I see one of these diagrams, this is really when it starts to click for me. Okay, the idea is scan something, have the service read it, and it'll spit out key information which we can then shove downstream somewhere else. So it tells me right in this documentation. I'll scroll that up so it's not on top of the clock. You can see that it says integrate in JSON format, right, with other AWS services. And that's typical with Translate, with Comprehend. The rest of them all work in this manner, right? So this is a cool little building block widget that I can use in other services. So great. I know what it is. I got an idea of the flow. Pricing is always important to make sure you're not going to get nailed with a bill you didn't expect. So we have 2 main APIs, the Detect Document API, then the Analyze API. So it says the Detect Document API is the actual OCR piece. The Analyze document pulls out data from tables and key value pairs and forms and things like that. So there is a free tier. That's great. Here's the pricing. So in US East 1, North Virginia, monthly first million pages is a fraction of a penny. And then over 1 million pages there. So effective price per 1,000 pages is $1.50. So I'm not in danger of running up a massive bill if I'm just horsing around with this like we are today. So that's really, step 2. Step 1, get the idea of what the service does by looking at a video, reading the landing page, then looking for that diagram of workflow. Step 2 is figure out the pricing so you don't get nailed. Because sometimes there is a bit of a rude awakening on some big services like Deep Racer. You can rack up a bill pretty quickly when you start doing a ton of concurrent models, but that's all relative too, right? So it really depends on what your budget is. From a business perspective, these are all really inexpensive services, but from just a nerding around, horsing around kind of thing, you might not want to drop $20 on 2 hours of virtual car racing, or you might want to. So it's good to be aware. So we're fine here. $1.50 for 1,000 pages. We're not going to hit 1,000 in the next 20 minutes or so. So we're absolutely cool. So good, we're there. I've already updated Bodo in the background, so we can get to that. But what I would do next is actually jump into the service. So here, if I'm logged into my AWS account, I'm going to either click on Textract or type Textract, and you'll see it's there, and it takes me to the actual service landing page now. You can see in the top corner I'm logged in. I'm in a supported region. That's always key. The nice thing is if you land if you're defaulted to a region that isn't supported, you're going to get a text, like information on the page that says, hey, this region isn't supported. Click here to go to one that is. So again, we get the simple how Textract works. Scan documents, run them through Textract, extracted data comes out, which enables us all these cool new features, right? Today, we're not going to link this into anything bigger. We are simply going to get that initial translation or that initial transformation done. I shouldn't say translation because that's a whole other service. The initial transformation. I almost said translation again. Oh, yeah, so the initial transformation done. So we are going to click on the traditional orange Try Amazon Textract button. and you'll see it's going to, oh, very nice. Okay, so this is a new common practice from AWS, and I gotta say, I absolutely love it. I think this is really, really smart. What they're doing is they are giving you really actionable immediate landing pages. So in this case, we clicked on the orange try button, and we're immediately thrown into Analyze Document with a sample document set up. And you can see here how it's scanning this and pulling out various information. So you can come down to the raw text. It's going to give you that raw text, so you can see employment application, application information. If we scroll up, that lines up directly with what it's found. This in case has a form, so it's actually got mailing address, home address, phone number, and full name. Let's see if that lines up. Yeah, so it's got this. It's saying I've detected a form, which is nice. And then tables, same kind of thing, broken into columns with the headers. Ooh, that's cool. That's going to work. So that gives you an idea of what this service accomplishes. Now, again, I haven't even dug into the documentation here, but normally what happens, and I say normally just based on experience, you know, I've been working with the AWS Cloud since day one, since it went public, and, you know, these services evolve sort of in a standardized way. And normally what happens is when you've got this immediate, hey, analyze a document, here's your sample document, and you go down to see results, these tabs normally relate to API calls. So I would imagine there is a response that gives us the raw text. There will be a call that will give us the forms, and then another call that's going to give us our tables. That's my guess. I don't know for sure. The way we know for sure is by going into the actual documentation. So if we go back to the Textract, see, and I do not enjoy this new menu system because when you have a larger font size or a smaller screen, it's going to pop down all the time. So for here, what we really want to do is we want to find the documentation. So if we go learn more, I think that's going to take us, yeah, learn more always takes us into the documentation. So let me up the screen size for you. So here we are in the actual documentation for Textract. And lo and behold, you know, it gives us the idea. Detecting text, Amazon Textract will provide synchronous and asynchronous operations. This is another key of how it's to be used. And again, it lines up with Comprehend, it lines up with Translate, it lines up with a number of the other services. Is there's a synchronous and an asynchronous op. The challenge here is if you've got a larger documentation or a job takes a longer time, synchronous might not be what you want. So the difference between the two, a synchronous request is if you send it, it waits for the answer before your program continues. Asynchronous, you throw it over, and then you need some sort of polling mechanism to check when the result is back. So these operations that return only the text detected in a document. For both sets of operations, the following is returned in multiple block objects. Lines and words of detected text, relationships between the lines and words of detected text, the page the text appears on, location of the lines, and the words and text on the document page. So essentially it says it's going to tell us what it found and where it found it. It's a really long way to say that. So there is a note here. If you're using to detect text synchronously, use the detect document text API operation and pass a document file's input. The entire set of results is returned by the operation. For more information and an example, oh great, detecting and analyzing, let's open that up and let's see what's there. So detecting and analyzing text in single-page documents. This should not be hard. Basically, provide something as a JPEG or a PNG. We can do synchronous if we want. That seems to be the easiest. 2 synchronous operations for the following purposes. Text detection, text analysis. Okay, that goes back to the different billing metrics. Text detection, you can detect lines and words on a single page using the detect document text operation. For text analysis, you can use the analyze document operation. Okay, cool. Let's get started. Why not? So I'm going to flip over here to a new application. We're going to go to iTerm. All right. So I'm going to open up Python 3. We're going to do everything in Python today because despite what a very good friend of mine says, Python's really good. Also, it makes, I think, for pretty straightforward live coding. Again, huge difference here, huge risk here, and we've only got max 15 minutes left to get this done. I haven't done this before with Textract. Obviously, I've worked with a ton of AWS services, but I haven't worked with this particular service. There's going to be mistakes. There are going to be a lot of mistakes, I'm sure. So the first thing I need to do is import Bodo 3. I did do some prep work. I did not write out the code as prep. The only thing I did as prep was to update Bodo to the latest version, which is 1.9.159, which has the Textract objects and API loaded into it. So you need to do an update. Simple, just do pip install -- upgrade Bodo 3, and you'll be up to date for Bodo, which is great. So I have my AWS credentials configured. I don't need to pass a key or a secret key. It will just automatically pick that up, which is great if you're doing this in the AWS cloud on an EC2 instance or in Cloud 9. It will pick up those credentials from the role. So make sure your role has access to Textract. Okay, so first thing we need to do is create a client, which is going to be bodo3.client. I think Textract. Let's take a guess before I flip back to the documents. And no, that's not how it works. Session, maybe. Let's double check. I'm going to flip to the documents real quick. Lowercase c, because, Python. There we go. So now we have a client, which is fantastic. We're already set up for what we need to do. So for endure client, what I'm doing here is simply saying what are each of the properties or functions attached to this object client, which is a Textract client. Let's see here. So we can see anything with an underscore is Python shorthand for private, so don't call it. So that means we've got essentially analyze document, detect document text, generate pre-signed URL, which is a default Bodo thing, get document analysis, get text detection, get waiter, which is for polling, start document analysis, and start text detection. So we've got our asynchronous and our synchronous one. So you can see document analysis, start document analysis versus get document analysis, or analyze document. So the naming's a little different than some of the standards here. So let's flip over to the documentation real quick and see what we're dealing with. So we'll up this so you guys can read it. So if we go in here, analyze document, analyzes an input document for relationships between detected items. Okay, we don't want that yet. We want to detect document text. There we go. Detects text in the input document. Seems well named. Detects the lines of text and everything that makes it up. Input document must be a JPEG or a PNG. I say ping all the time in my head. I'm just going to say ping because a PNG sounds weird to me, but I'm sure I'm going to ignite a GIF versus GIF turf war. And for the record, it's GIF, not GIF. And as Corey Quinn says, fight me. This returns the detected text in an array of block objects, which is cool. That's what we need to learn how to work. Each document page has an associated block of type page block, blah, blah, blah. We'll figure that out. We'll figure that out as we go. This is the synchronous operation. Yay! We're going to keep it simple and do synchronous. So let's see what the request syntax is here. So we need to send it a document, which is bytes or an S3 object. So I'm going to go out on a limb without reading any further. Why read? I mean, I'm sure the comments are just going to light up. Everyone's RTFM. We're kind of winging it here. So let's see. We got 11 minutes left. We got 11 minutes to wing this. I think we can pull this off. So bytes and S3 object. This to me says they're probably optional, one of which is required. You can either send the actual bytes of a file upstream, or you can give it an S3 object. Let's see if we did. Bytes required, documents required, that's fine. Bytes, a blob of base 64 encoded document bytes. Maximum size of the document is 5 meg. And S3 has the same thing, excuse me. It's spring. The trees in the backyard are starting to go. They're starting to bloom. Looks lovely. Nightmare for the allergies. So a bit of a challenge there. Okay. If you're calling the SDK to call Textract, you might not need to base 64 encode the image. You will with Bodo. S3 object. I can give it an object and shove it into the document source. That seems to be the most logical way. That's probably going to be the most common way, and then it gives us a bunch of document metadata back. Okay, so two things. I am going to flip back to iTerm here for a second, and because I'm not 100% sure what is sitting in this account's S3 buckets. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you my terminal so I don't embarrass myself with anything else. Block all public access. Yeah, okay. Cool. I'm going to flip back to Safari because there's nothing bad in this bucket. You always want to make sure, just in case. All right, so I just created a new bucket, Textract, upload an object. Let's see if I upload this, if I add a file. That is a disaster, isn't it? There we go. Okay, so I'm going to upload this file, and this file is actually the entire web page of the Textract landing page. So we saw that earlier. This page I've made into a giant ping, and we're uploading that bad boy. So I, as the owner, can do it. That's great. We should be good there. Standard. Uploading, and there's our image. Okay, so it's under the limit. It's 561K, so we're not going to get hit by anything. We are, however, going to get hit by a permissions issue because Textract needs to be able to see this. But let's walk through that and have it blow up first because I think that's important to see. So we are trying to create an S3 object. Let's give that S3 obj. We're going to create a hash that has these indicators, bucket name and version. Okay, and I'm going to go out on a limb. Yeah, so bucket is required. Extract. Name of it is required. Just copying this over right now. Textract, web page full. You know, I'm not a big fan when you can't copy the text. No. That really frustrates me when I'm not allowed to copy text. There we go. Okay. So, gonna flip to terminal here. S3. So Textract web page full.ping. So I've met the requirements. I've got an S3 object with a bucket specified. Bucket's even spelled right. Textract, the name of the key in the bucket is also specified. And according to the Bodo docs, that should be sufficient. Now I can say response is client dot. I'm just going to copy because it's faster. And I don't have tab completion in the Python interpreter for this kind of stuff. Document. Right? Yeah. Document is S3 object. S3 obj. That's properly closed off. So I've said response. Let me move that. Let me move me out of the way. There we go. Okay. So response is client. We're calling the function detect document text. This is the synchronous version, and then we're giving it a document, which is a dictionary object that has S3 with our S3 object. That S3 object is simply another dictionary object that says bucket and name. So let's see what happens here. That's going to give us a response. So synchronous, you see it's pausing here. This is the synchronous version. Asynchronous would have returned immediately with a job ID or something that we could use to pull back and say, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? So let's see what we've got from response. So response, looks like we have a response. This is great. So let's scroll back up because this is just a giant blob of things. We are going to get, here, let's flip back to Safari. So that's probably going to be a little more. So we got this back. So we should have response syntax is document metadata, the number of pages it found. Remember, this was a full page screenshot. So this was, basically the entire thing. It's probably about 7 or 8 pages total, but it was sent as one giant file, as one flat PNG. So we'll see how it breaks that up. And then we have blocks. So let's pull document metadata first, and then we're going to go through the iteration on the blocks. And again, this is how I work through all the time. It's sort of a combination of reading and playing around in the Python interpreter. So that image was one entire page, which makes sense. We sent it as one page. And now let's see what the blocks are. Blocks. Let's just return the first block. And there's still a ton of stuff in that first block. Question. There we go. So blocks. Type, page, geometry, bounding box, width, height, left, 0. So it is literally identifying on the image the coordinates of what it found. So at this bounding box, there is a polygon, the ID, relationships, so it tells what other IDs it is related to, which is interesting. So this has been identified as to what we need. So detect, I'm going to save our response just in case. Actually, it's response.copy, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So we have a detection. Now we need analysis. So you can see this is just literally a set of coordinates of everything that it found on the page that it is identified as text. And it's a lot. And it shows you the relationships, which I think is really, really interesting that it breaks it up into these 2 steps because as you can see, that ain't so useful, right? A giant GUID to give me a positional on the page, not insanely useful. So let's see what we can do. Let's flip back to Safari. And now we want to analyze. So excuse my scrolling, and we're going to go to analyze document. So analyze document analyzes an input document for relationships between detected items. Type of information is the words and the lines, the key value, table and cell data. So this is what we want. This is actually what we want. The output is again returned as block objects. That's fine. This is the synchronous version. Absolutely what we want. Response. Again, is the same thing. Client analyze document this time. Document being an S3 bucket with the feature types enabled. So let's look at the requirements for feature types. Being well aware that we only have 2.5 minutes left. Ooh, we're right up against the wire. Can I do timeouts like in the NBA? Like, we can stretch this out to 20 minutes? We'll see. Feature types. Required. A list of the analysis to perform. Add tables to the list to return information about the tables to document in the document. There are tables here. Add forms. Okay, that's interesting. Because this is poorly written from the documentation here. Let's flip back to this documentation. So we got a Python example. That's great. So that's why the bounding boxes are there. They're just to show you this is a code example that would actually highlight them like we saw in the interface. But what I want to know is API reference. There we go. So actions, analyze document. So Boto is great for documentation, but at the end of the day, this is the single source of truth, the AWS documentation around it. Feature types, a list of all the types, tables, forms required. Yeah, so we must indicate forms or tables. That's a really weird API setup. I mean, it is what it is, but that's a little weird that you require that. So let's try this again. We already have our S3 document specified. So let's flip back to iTerm. And let's go response again. We'll go response 2 just in case. Analyze document. Document spelled correctly is going to be S3 object is S3 obj. I think we had it. And then the second required parameter is not a document. It's going to be feature types. So we close this off. Feature types. And this is a list, so we're going to say tables and forms. Why not? Tables, forms. All right, let's give this a shot. So we've said use that same S3 object that we got all these crazy bounding boxes for. give us the tables and the forms, so everything you can. Hopefully text is there by default. And then we're going to see what the response is. So again, asynchronous. This is why it's blocking. Synchronous. Synchronous, not asynchronous. Synchronous, because it's blocking. This is lightning fast. It's returned it quickly. So let's see what is here. This should be response document metadata. Now I'm expecting this to return the pages, pages 1 again, so it's found it, which is great. We're going to go and do the blocks again. We're going to pull the first block only. So the first block only in this case has another chunk of bounding boxes. Relationships, type, geometry, bounding box, polygon. Okay, yeah, that's great. What am I looking for here? So, so I'm just looking at the references. So when we have blocks.keys, let's look at that. So the keys, block type, geometry, ID, and relationships. We did not get what we were expecting, which is when we look at the information here, and we're over time, we're going to go a little longer. Let's put another 5 on the clock. Let's do that. Yeah, there we go. Let's give ourselves an extra bonus 5. We're going into overtime. And immediately the Dude Perfect overtime thing came into my head. We're going to overtime. Trust me, you do not want me singing on this channel. So you can see here that the blocks from analyze should give us a value set. They should have block type. They should have confidence. There should be a text, which is what we want. We want that text piece, right? So why aren't we getting this? This is the analyze document. Let's go back to iTerm for a sec, and let's take a look. So as I told you, there was going to be problems here. Client, analyze document, feature types, tables, and forms. Let's try this again without anything in there. Yep, nope, so it needs it. So, ooh, provisioned rate exceeded already. So let's do, yeah, okay, so we still have something here, which is great. But there's no actual text in any of this thing, which confuses me to no end. Because we've got confidence high, block type, key value set, confidence high, geometry, left, polygon, that's great. ID, again, relationships. There's no actual list of found text in here. We just have all these things that it's found, but no additional bits. So let's go back to the documentation. Told you this may or may not work, and this is part of exploring a new service and going things. We've got it doing the right thing. It is firing off and appropriately returning results. The question is why we're not getting the same type of return result. So we're getting confidence, we're getting block type, so page, line, word. So let's do a search here first, because it's telling me what the block type is. So let's go through each block and spit out block type. So I like to do this kind of thing of exploring the data by hand. So if we go for B in response to blocks, print B, block type, right? Block type. So this is saying for every block in the response blocks, print the block type out for me. And you see it's key value set, ooh, word. There we go. So we did get the response. It's just hidden in a chunk of text. So what we're going to do here is we're going to give the same thing. So for every block in that response, which is the entirety of our document that we sent, let's go if b.block type equals word, print B dot B. Okay, so in this case, if for every word, what we want is to do two things. We're going to do a format string here. So I'm saying value 1, a new tab, and then value 2. We're going to say B text, then B confidence. So this should give us a list of, for every time it found a word, what that word was and the confidence that that's actually the word. And I forgot to close something off, didn't I? Yeah. There we go. Okay. I forgot the end bracket. So this is really interesting because what you're going to see here is based on its analysis. So it's found AWS, contact sales, product solution. So you can see solutions is missing the T, and it hasn't found that T. Now the interesting thing here is the source document that we sent was actually really, really high quality. Now, if it's not analyzing this properly, that's going to be really kind of fascinating. So let me see if I can share this source document with you. I'm going to open this up. There we go. Okay. So let me show you what we actually sent it. So this is the image that we sent it. So it's obviously found, so you can see it's the web page, right? It is the web page. We sent it that at 1024 across and 4,000 some pixels down. So we sent it a decently high quality one, but it's come back with these words that it's not completely confident. Like look at these confidence scores. AWS 99, that's great. In the 80s, 85, 74, 78, 75, not extremely confident about what it's determined here. So let's do the same analysis. Let's spit out every block. Let's go, if the block type is line. So let's see if it's found the lines, and we'll print that out, and we'll fix that parentheses. And so again, here is the, this is fascinating. So let's see if we look at this. This is obviously not correct. This is language support across, and it's got a lot of confidence challenges here. But we are getting information back. So I think this is a case where, and being aware of the time, and we are at the end of our time together, this is a case where, okay, I've been able to prove out that we can send the document, we can get the bounding boxes of where it's all found text. I can send the document and do the analysis. So I've proven out that I can do the API. For me, what this says is there is a, so I'll just flip back to show you that real quick. So you can see we've proven this out. We've gotten, we've sent in an image and we've gotten text and confidence back. So for me though, this low level of confidence scores, and this is why those confidence scores are critical, shows me that our source document's not good enough. So there's a challenge with this source document, and I'm going to show you a difference real quick because I think I have time for this. I have a higher quality of this web page, so let me just upload it. I just threw it into the same S3 bucket, S3 obj. So S3 obj, let's go S3 obj 2 is this. Here. I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to give a higher res version of this. And what we're going to do is we're going to add, really quickly throw it in there. So response 2, we're going to send it the second object. So this is a smaller snippet of the page at a higher text size. And let's see what happens here. So for blocks, if the line, print it up. So now you can see much higher confidence scores. It's actually pulled out the proper text. So Amazon Textract pricing, here's the 99.9% confidence. With Amazon Textract, you only pay for what you use. There are no minimum fees and upfront commitments. That is a properly translated sentence. Amazon Textract charges you for each... So look at this. These are through the roof. So what that says is that the initial document we sent up was not sufficient resolution, and understandably so. It was half a meg for the entire web page. So if we bump up that resolution, go through the same process, we're going to be able to pull out that text. So again, we're getting full sentences here with reasonably high confidence ratings, and that is, proof in point how the service is working. Let's flip back to the camera here. So I'll close this off because we are past our time. So that's it. That's how I really kind of explore new services. You saw a little bit of how Textract works. So what I do is I look at the initial marketing message, I look at the initial intro video, then dive into the landing page, and really look for that workflow diagram, right? When you can see how that workflow works, that's super positive. That gives you a real key idea for Textract. It was given an image, fire it through the service. You'll get back a JSON showing you not only where it found the text, but what it thinks it's found, which is obviously the core key of the service, but also gives you an idea that this is a building block service. You will take these results and shove them into something else. It doesn't produce usable results as themselves, right? We just saw the JSON file in the terminal. You need to do something with that in order to make it usable. And of course, this is ideally set up to shove into Amazon Comprehend to break down parts of speech, what the semantic meaning, key phrases, all this kind of stuff. You could put it through translation. You could do any number of things with this, which is great. You could use the forms or the tables processing feature on the analysis calls to shove that into a database somewhere. Lots of ability here. So figure out that concept, then look at the pricing. Make sure you're not going to get nailed, right? So we spent not even a penny sending these things in, which is amazing. So video, landing page, look for that diagram, then pricing. That's step one out of the way. Step two is go to the actual landing page for the service in the web UI, get an idea of how that API is structured based on that interface. So in this case, we saw a document analyzed and then underneath with the results. That's really key. And then from there, start playing around. So I had Bodo up to date. So version 1.9.159 has Textract in it. That was just released this week. And I had that going. So once I've got that going, then I just kind of play back and forth between the documentation and working in the Python interpreter to see the results I'm getting. There's obviously way cleaner ways to do this, but I like going this route because it gives me a better idea of sort of the edges and the boundaries and what breaks. So you saw we actually hit an error. You need to send the features. You need to send forms or tables with it. You can't send a blank list. We saw a rate limit right off the bat, and we weren't even sending a ton of requests. So you start to get an idea of where the service has a little bit of boundaries, where those boundaries are, how to avoid those boundaries, and also you get a kind of a feel just for how this thing works, which is absolutely key. Very simple service, works just like a lot of the other machine learning ones. You saw the synchronous version today. They have the asynchronous as well. Really simple to put something like this into a serverless workflow and a serverless architecture to do this OCR kind of stuff. You could trigger it off images dumped into an S3 bucket, have them automatically sent through Textract, then through Comprehend, translated, whatever you want. Really cool workflows here. So that was it. Let me know what you guys think. How this worked out for you. This was just sort of spur of the moment. The timer obviously did not work for me. I got to get better at that, especially because I'm going to be up against my next meeting. But I want to spend more time just kind of getting my hands dirty and feeling this out. I thought it would be insightful for you guys to see how I break down starting a new service. Again, it's all about you. It's all about discussion moving forward. I like learning this kind of stuff. I like sharing my learning and teaching it out to you. But I'm really curious if this format works for you. Let me know. Hit me up online. Let me pop up that social. Look at how fancy that is. You can't even see it. Perfect. Hit me up online at MarkNCA on all platforms, in the comments down below, as always, and by email, me at markn.ca. I hope you're set up for a fantastic day, and I will talk to you guys soon.